for me, until you're ready to stop running, until you're able to be happy alone with yourself, until you're certain that you're being a human being and able to be present rather than a human doing, because there's always something to do. Until you can, there's always a wash to put on, there's always a gym workout to do, there's always some extra work, and we actually get applauded for a lot of this stuff as well. A lot of those exits that you can take from your life, it's not just drugs and alcohol and raving and misbehaving. A lot of the ways of you avoiding your life can be very exemplary. You can be rewarded for those other exits: work, exercise, like I say, humanitarian, other things for others, over giving for others, never giving to self. We can be rewarded and applauded for those. But one of my biggest posts that blew up was that you can still burn out doing what you love. And being a giver and over giving, you can absolutely still be flawed with that.
Annalie Howling, welcome to Passion, Love, Pursuit podcast. I am so honored that you are here all the way from London. I've been waiting for this moment, truly, so I just thank you so much for making your time.
Oh my God, it's my true pleasure. I'm really happy that we're able to do this today, and thank you for making and accommodating us here in Austin.
Yeah, we're actually here for the Health Optimization Summit, so it just happened that you were coming here, and so was I, and so I'm like, let's please make it happen. So thank you so much. Well, so you specialize in something that a lot of people experience but don't really talk about too often. Actually, it's not even talked about a whole lot. And I know that especially in the coaching world, we often are called to serve the person we once were. So I would love to hear your experience with shame.
Oh, yeah, shame. Thank you as well. It's a beautiful setup for shame because we don't talk about it. And I think the reason we don't talk about it very much is actually shame is a felt sense. So given that it's sort of more somatic or we feel it within our body, we don't have the language often to describe shame. It's a really tricky thing to put into words, but you feel it. You feel it straight away. So I say now, and I really do believe this, that I've had two lives. I had a shameful life, which was one that I was full of shame. And then thankfully now I'm on the other side of it. I have a shameless life. I'm completely shameless. There's this saying, particularly British English, which is, have you no shame? And I'm like, no, literally none. And that was just really not the case for me. A very difficult time in my life, about 6 years ago now, my marriage was imploding. I was so deeply in shame's grasp. It was shame that had hold of me. I feel quite emotional actually, thinking about that version of me and how afraid she was and how much I listened to shame and believed it. Because it belittles you and it tells you that you're the only one and that you're broken, that there's no hope for you. There's no point telling anyone. If you did tell somebody, they'd judge you. What would they think of you? And I was in this horrible cycle of trying to mask my shame by being perfect. So I was trying to chase perfectionism. That's obviously leading to all kinds of different burnout and other issues. And I was self-harming at the time as well, which is unbelievably shameful for a coach and therapist, that I was harming myself while still helping others. And so for me at that time, it was such a different life, almost like with no colour. And then now my life is, like I say, on the other side of that, on the other side of all of that shame and kind of everything I went through, almost like bottomed out, got into that really grubby, sticky, nasty substance that it is in my system and found my way out of it. It's just so liberating. I really feel like I turn 44 in a couple of months, and I really feel like my life is beginning now. I feel so free. We chat off air and I say to anybody that's ever going to interview me, I don't really want questions first. And also there's nothing off limits because one, I want to be really in the moment with you. And also it's almost a kind of reminder to myself that I'm completely free and I can be with you authentically in this moment. And honestly, if we were doing this 6 years ago, I would have been having my nails in my palm and I would have been smiling and saying words to you, but I would have been probably wishing and nudging you away from certain subjects and not wanting to go too deep. It would have been very surface. So that's the kind of biggest difference for me with shame in my journey, and I'm really happy to unpack any layers and elements of that with you.
I love that you share that because I always think the same, like there's guests that come on and they ask for the questions first, and nothing wrong with that, but I think it's partly like that preparation that doesn't seem authentic.
Yeah.
And I remember actually, what's her face? Not Michelle Obama, oh my gosh, going way back. Oh my gosh, President, I'm blanking. Oh my gosh, that just ran for presidency.
Oh, Kamala.
Yeah, Kamala. I remember for Joe Rogan, she required the questions first, and she said, "I have a strict 45 minutes." But then Trump, he specifically like, okay, you have all my time. He didn't need questions beforehand, but that shows authenticity because if you need the questions beforehand, you're going to be preparing and you're going to be like preparing for what you're going to respond to those questions.
Yeah.
So I love that you mentioned that because I always think the same, like, you know, the topic I'm going to ask you, just trust the process that it's going to be authentic, powerful conversation. You don't need the questions first.
Yeah.
And so I love that you mentioned that because I think sometimes we over prepare ourselves and that then lessens the authenticity of the conversation. So I love that.
It totally lacks connection as well, because if you'd asked me questions, if I'd written replies, what I'm doing is I'm trying to recall answers that I've scripted, and it means that you and I are not going to connect. The other thing it's doing is it's taking away, so if anyone suffers with perfectionism and imposter syndrome, which I know there's loads, the other thing it's doing is it's stopping me from learning. Like quite often, I love doing podcasts so much because it's like time off for me. I get to answer questions and just be in the moment. But also, I often have like big reveal and light bulb moments, or just then I felt quite emotional. I've got enough space and like water between me now and that version of myself. I'm here with you in Austin, like my kids here, one of my best mates are here. We're doing this big talk tomorrow. I'm getting to spend time with you. I feel so grateful, and so much has changed. I don't always get those moments to reflect. And so being really in this present moment with you, it's allowing me to do that as well.
Oh, so beautiful. I love that. Okay, let's unpack shame a bit. Like I said, it's not talked about enough. So I really want people to grasp and understand shame. So a lot of people, I believe, are unaware of the shame they carry. They suppress it by anger, fear, sadness. And so how do we become more conscious and aware of the shame that we do carry?
So I believe we do know what we're ashamed of. So I knew that, like I say, the things I didn't want you going anywhere near. And I say in the book, I'm like, you know, the thing that you just wish won't be mentioned at a dinner table. It's the thing that you're like, please, no one say, how's work going, for example, because you're so overwhelmed and you really can't deal with it right now. And you know you should be saying no to your boss, but they're just absolutely piling it on you. Or they ask about your relationship and things aren't good, but you're not ready to go there because perhaps you've been masking and perfecting too long. I think people do know the shame that they're just pushing away all the time, pushing back down into the system. But absolutely, as you say, the behaviors, the surface level behaviors that lie on top of it can be indicators, but it's again another layer of masking. So for me, I overgave, I people pleased, I tried to be perfect. I was a bit of a chameleon at times, and not in a Machiavelli way, but obviously I feel so ashamed of my shame. I think I'm so awful. This comes from a childhood of violence, and my father was very, very violent with me, and my mother colluded. So she backed him up and said it was my fault. And I remember once on a family holiday, I talk about this quite openly, but he punched me in the face in a restaurant, and I was younger than my daughter. So I would have been about 7 and had a huge nosebleed, obviously. And I remember them sort of looking to one another and being like, well, you did say you'd never had a nosebleed before, because boys at school were beginning to get, in adolescence, sometimes with hormone changes, get nosebleeds. And it was like, well, you did say you'd wanted a puppy for Christmas. And you think, and I knew at the time it was wrong, but yet these two people, my parents, have been put on this earth to love me. They're telling me I'm wrong. I'm so bad that I made them do it. I must be so bad. I must be. That's shame. I am bad. So shame always starts with an I am. Like I give the example of my daughter, who's at the moment doing something amazing for me to help me out with my friend. And, if I said to you, oh, babe, it was a bit of a rush this morning, had a bit of drama, which you know about off air, like, I don't think I was the best mummy this morning, need to do a bit better this afternoon, put some time in with her. That's me being a bit guilty. If I said to you, oh, it was a bit of a drama this morning, I am a bad mother. That's me giving you an example. I know I'm a really great mother and I feel physically unwell saying that to you. That deep inner, I am. And the things that I hear from my clients, I have a disordered eating pattern. I am disgusting. Betrayal trauma, someone left me. I am a failure. I am weak. I am helpless. I am hopeless. I'm unworthy. I'm unlovable. I'm unsafe. I'm out of control. These are all of the I ams. And the thing with the shame is, it's because it is this deep felt sense that becomes a lens through which we see the world. And with my I am bad, this broken child of I am bad from that long, and it was revalidated. My God, it was revalidated by my parents so many times. But then you get to a place where you're kind of maybe, adolescent, or you're exploring the world. Well, I believe that I am bad, so I'm doing all the masking, I'm doing all the perfecting, I'm not asserting my needs. I found some solace in nice friendships, so best believe I'm not going to rock the boat there because I'm so hyper aware of I need this connection because I've got this horrible connection at home, probably pretending that things are better and trying to keep people away from the stuff that I'm afraid of and ashamed of, including parts of myself. So you just become this kind of robot almost of just deeply locking down your shame and kind of any vulnerability around that as well, just pushing it down. And all I can tell you is I was so aware of it. I was painfully aware of it all the time. Just, it sits here. It's the thing that, like I say, you're white knuckling and you're if someone gets any closer to me about this subject, I'm just going to go. And so what we do is we push people away, or we run away from things a lot of the time. I'm sure I say this in the book, but there's, again, British English saying about it's misery that loves company. But I'm going to almost contradict myself here, because shame thrives when you believe that you're the only one, that you're isolated. But actually shameful behaviours can unite people as well. So there's a lot of the time I get someone in and they'll be or I hear stories, not my clients usually, it's the person that, say, caused them some harm. And they've got an alcohol issue or a drug issue, or they're cheating and they've been betrayed. And the person will almost validate their own shameful behaviour by saying, oh, but they take cocaine every day. I only do it at the weekends. Or, well, yes, I did do that, but it was before we were married. It's these kinds of things. And they tend to stick together with other people that at the time that are engaging in shameful behaviours. And again, they are so hyper aware of it. I know they are, that they can't be around people of high integrity. So when people have been betrayed and they're people of high integrity and they're but I never saw it coming. What does that say about me? I'm so stupid. How did I not know? And it's I always say, whoa. I've had it done to me plenty. And I'm actually really, really proud now that I never saw it coming, because I could never do that to another person. So I couldn't dream up the possibility of that kind of betrayal. And actually, I really believe now that being so soft-hearted is a superpower. But before that, I would have felt shame as well for, here's another stupid thing that I've done, yet another way that I'm bad.
So you mentioned a lot there that I would love to unpack. One of the things you said is that shame thrives in isolation. And so I think it's very hard when you are, ridden with all the shame to then break free of it. And so I would love to know kind of the first steps so that we could get ourselves out of isolation and be able to start to move into getting support from a loved one or a friend, or even just speaking it out loud to ourselves. What are kind of the first steps to move into getting out of isolation?
Thank you so much for asking that, because it's so terrifying. And it sounds like, it's easy to hear me saying all this stuff now and I can talk about anything really openly, but I couldn't. And I was so afraid of it. And what I used to do is, if we were chatting, I would ask you a question. It's almost like you do coaching, the hot potato thing, get it out of your hand as quickly. So, but no, tell me about you. Oh, that's interesting. How are the kids? What's going on with work? What holidays are you going on? It's so easy to be in conversation but say nothing. So I wouldn't lie to people, but I also wouldn't show up. And there's a big difference there. So one of the things, as you rightly say, is you can start with you and you alone, just beginning to admit something. There's a story in the book, an incredible client of mine. There are so many incredible stories from clients of mine that have gone in with their, full stories. I know you've seen it. So,
yeah, I read the book. It's a beautiful read. It's a hard read, right? Because it's real stories and it's a subject that we don't like to talk about.
Exactly.
But
I really wanted there to be real stories, and real stories are hard to hear because they were hard to experience for people. And just to trigger warning this, I'm going to talk about sexual assault. There's a story in there about sexual assault. And the client of mine, I was the first person they told, ever. That's the first time it's ever come out of their mouth. It was something they experienced in childhood. It's in the most unbelievable, raw detail. You've read it in that book. Incredibly difficult to read. And 40 years later, I was the first person that they've ever told about what had happened. And they were continually shamed by their parent after the attack, even when they were young, which is just even more horrifying, like the layers and layers of shame put upon them. And after the account, which is in the book, they write this really, I think, amazing piece of advice to anybody that is resonating with that in any way and what to do. And they say the first step is just to say it out loud to yourself. Just say it out loud to yourself. Admit the thing that you know is there, that you feel is there, the thing that, as I talk about, is just under the surface, that's underlying every conversation. They said, they'd be at dinner tables at Christmas, mothers getting a bit too drunk on a few champagnes, and they would just go into freeze. Is she going to say something? Is she going to do something? It was there all the time. It's ever present. And so the first thing they did was be alone with yourself. Just say it out loud.
And naming it, correct?
Completely name it. This happened to me, and I did not deserve it. But this is the thing that happened to me. This did happen, and I did not deserve it. And that could be mirror work if you're comfortable with it. It can be inner child work if you're comfortable with it. It can be sat in a car on the driveway before you go in the house and just say it to yourself. And then when you've done that, you can then maybe open up to, if you need a professional, please speak to a professional, or open up. It doesn't have to be everything, but you can open up a slight amount to a trusted friend. Now, this person, this story, they say after working with me and doing EMDR and it being out and the weight of it coming out of your system was so extreme, they have to remember not to talk about it at like cocktail parties now. It's like it's become so liberating and so freeing, and life has become so bright again and sort of technicolor. They have to remember that not everyone else is feeling the same way. But I do know, because we've spoken a lot and we're close, that since us having that conversation and them being so much more open about it, loads of their friends in their circle have been able to talk about similar things along that kind of spectrum, and their dynamic has got much closer, and everyone therefore is showing up again in a real way in these dynamics. Another thing that I want to offer to your listeners, because I think it's really important to give like helpful things, because this will be resonating. I know it is, sadly, and so sadly, I wish it wasn't true, but most weeks I do 3 or 4 in-person client sessions. Most weeks I talk about sexual assault with someone that happened when they were a child in some fashion, something that they did not understand, they didn't have the language for, you were left in a way that you were unsafe without a caregiver, in an environment where this was able to happen, even though that would not be in anyone's thought. I'm not ever making anyone's parents or caregivers wrong in these situations, but these things do sadly occur, and I'm unpacking a lot of it at the moment. But in these environments, one of the things that people at home or listening can do, if this is resonating, and I'm sorry if it is, because you did not deserve it, is we have this really difficult stance on giving ourselves compassion. Like, I'm telling you about things in my childhood, and I can see that you're feeling really empathetic towards me, and you're finding it hard to hear my story. And if I heard something from you, I'd be like, Erica, how is that possible? This is awful, I'm hearing these things from you. But we find it really tough to turn that lens on ourselves, because we still see our dark bits. And if we've got shame will be like, oh, well, maybe you did deserve that. For most of my adult life, until I had EMDR and work on myself, although I rationally knew my father punching me in the face as a child was wrong, there was still a bit of me that was like, maybe you were a bit cheeky, maybe you shouldn't have answered him back. That was shame. So what I want to encourage people to do is run a scenario. This shameful sequence through in your head: violence, assault, attack, people shouting at you, something you've witnessed. Trauma and shame can be taken on by something you've seen happen to somebody else. We can take on secondary shame and humiliation. Whatever the thing is that's playing on loop in your mind, play it through and put in that scene a child. As in, I keep a picture of my daughter in my office from when she was 6 or 7, but maybe there's a niece or a nephew, a friend's kid that you're quite close to that's a similar age. If you can connect to your own inner child, use that. But find someone that is around that age group that you love, or a best friend, someone, whichever scenario we're working through here, and you run that scene again with them in it, and you tell me if at any point they could have done anything differently or they deserved it. Because the answer is unanimously no.
Yeah. Wow. That's so powerful. Never even thought of that. So that's a powerful, powerful tool to just begin the process of healing. One of the things that you talk, and I love this, you talk a lot about identity, and I think our identity is one of the strongest forces. But how does somebody distinguish between who they are and what they've experienced?
That's an amazing question. Again, I sort of feel like depends where we are in the process of healing, which of course is like it could be anywhere, I guess. I know for me that when I had a huge burnout when I was 29, massive, and I didn't really know what it was at the time. I just knew that I couldn't keep going, and I really thought I was invincible. I thought I can just keep going, keep running, which I now understand was me trying to outrun my childhood trauma. My way of doing that, here was the way my brain was working clearly, although it was unconscious at the time. Home is unsafe. You are unsafe at home, parents, from violence, cannot ever go home. Now you have left and you're working. Work must be so successful. There is no backup plan. Have to make money, have to make money, have to make money. So all I was doing was trying to make myself as financially secure as quickly as possible so that I never had to go back to this horrible environment. And so to me, like I say, it was just running. And then also I'm trying to hide all of my shame all the time. So it's like a double marathon. I'm like running one on the surface, trying to get my job and my career and everything else, like, you know, extremely perfect and sort of safely enough away that I was thinking if I run far enough, then I could take a break. Then I could breathe. It'd be safe enough for me to look back over my shoulder and go, you did it. You're out of harm's way, babe. But I didn't do that. And then underneath this other marathon is sort of my deep shame that's like, and hide me, you better hide me if anyone sees you. Imagine what they're going to think of you. So I'm doing these kind of two, almost like, you know, pat your head and touch your belly thing, like the completely different movements at the same time, and all the while trying to be perfect. And this is before Me Too in London, working in construction and property and kind of being I refer to it as being a corporate courtesan, where you had to also look a certain way and be a certain way and be, you know, charming and clever and pretty and funny and apologize, no, I'm so sorry, and all of these kind of things. So I would say that none of that was my identity. That was me out desperately trying in a kind way. It wasn't me being Machiavelli again. I wasn't trying to be fake, but I didn't think any part of me would be okay. I didn't think I was okay. I thought I was bad. So I was trying to be good. I was trying to be better. I was trying to be a good girl. I was trying to meet the requirements of me or do what I should, you know, what society expects of me even. And that wasn't me either, but I didn't have another framework. I was trying my best.
Right.
And so it wasn't until I was floored by burnout that it went, this can't carry on, basically. And then I had this amazing experience for me, which was a session with a friend of mine who was coaching. And this was like, I don't know, probably about 16 years ago now. And coaching hadn't really come to the UK yet. It was a bit woo and weird and like, oh, what are you doing? But it was such a profound experience in this guided meditation that cut out all of that noise, all of that outrun, the place that seemed safe for me, being a human doing, not a human being. And if I just stayed busy enough, I'd never have to face me. And that just went into like the deep goo, which I know that you know all about, and the coaching, and just, I think I'd maybe had like a little taste of it in like a Shavasana, but never got into that part of myself. And then when I'd had a taste of it, that was it. That was like, I need to understand now what this is, how I can access more of me. So I found my identity there. And it's quite amazing because so many things, and you'll know, like, doesn't have to make sense, but so many things in that meditation, that guided visualization, have come true that I couldn't possibly have known. I always had a daughter, but I wasn't married. Like, it was like in this vision, and it was just incredible. So I would say for me, until you're ready to stop running, until you're able to be happy alone with yourself, until you're certain that you're being a human being and able to be present rather than a human doing, because there's always something to do.
Right.
until you can, there's always a wash to put on. There's always a gym workout to do. There's always some extra work. And we actually get applauded for a lot of this stuff as well. A lot of those exits that you can take from your life, it's not just drugs and alcohol and raving and misbehaving. A lot of the ways of you avoiding your life can be very exemplary. You can be rewarded for those other exits, work, exercise, like I say, humanitarian, other things for others, overgiving for others, never giving to self. We can be like rewarded and applauded for those. But one of my biggest posts that blew up was that you can still burn out doing what you love. And being a giver and overgiving, you can absolutely still be flawed with that. So I hope that's kind of answers, but for me it didn't. I was unable to connect to my identity because I believed shame, that I probably didn't deserve an identity, or that I just was bad. I probably thought that was my identity. And so I thought I had to hide that and mask it and do anything possible to try and outrun it or just stay ahead of perfect. If I can just be in this race of perfection, just one length ahead of perfection, then it's okay, everything's okay, everyone's okay, my friends are still my friends, my work is still my work, then I'll be okay. And of course you're not.
Okay. There's a lot in there that I would love to just unpack again. So people pleasing, a lot of people do it. What is at the root of that? Like, what is the foundation of the reason why we people please?
So I've actually got a bit of a new theory on this. And since doing all this deep dive and work into shame and like living and breathing the book and like being in relationship with shame basically for so long, so the trauma responses: fight, flight, freeze, which we know a lot about; flop, pass out on the spot. I always say that, little impala deers on safari, and they see a threat and they go, ah! You've seen those, or I sometimes say like the funny videos of like the groom waiting at the altar. Yeah. And he goes, like the silly videos. Yeah. That's flop, pass out. The last one that we're beginning to talk about more, thank goodness, is fawn. Fawning, placating. So in an extreme example, and a lot of the examples of sexual assault cases, when people come and see me, and it's often historical, why didn't I say anything? Or a great question, never to ask someone if you think there might be why didn't you leave? Right. Amazing, well done. Like, why didn't you leave? Or why did you stay for so long? Or why didn't you change it? A fawn trauma response is something, and all of your trauma responses, it's really, really, really important that people hear this, because so much shame is carried by the fawn trauma response. If someone came into this room right now to attack us both, you and I might have completely different responses to what happens. You might be like, I'm ready for this, get the camera, bash them over the head. You might go into full fight, I'm having it, and then run. I might be take a different tact. I might freeze, I might pass out, or I might start placating someone and just be like, oh, we're so sorry. Oh, didn't realise, was this room meant to be for you? Oh, you seem really cross. Can I get you a cup of tea? I might start going into that, and you might be like, what the hell are you doing? Like, why would you behave in that way? Why would you act that way? Shame. Narcissistic bosses. I had a narcissistic boss, probably more than one. But I relied on that person. Remember, I'm outrunning my fear and my trauma, and I've got to get financially secure. I was touched. I was groped. I was told to stay at events and drink. I was, oh my God, the stuff that happened to me. And then with the underlying threat of, and if you don't do this, or you want to be a good girl, you want to get promoted, and obviously I'm like, I've got to keep my job. So I fawned. I knew it wasn't right, but I didn't call them out on it. Or, whatever it might be. I didn't go along with it, but I certainly didn't make a scene or make a fuss. So I fawned, or even sometimes probably apologised. Oh, sorry, I just thought I could go home now. Sorry to ask that. Sorry for me taking up space. The trauma responses are activated before conscious thought. So they fire much quicker. So you have your prefrontal cortex here at the front of your brain, people not watching, and then you have your Broca's area, which is language, which sits just behind it. Then you'll have your amygdala and your limbic system, which is the prehistoric, the animal brain, and that is where the trauma responses are activated from. The second we sense a threat, all of your blood from your prefrontal cortex and often your Broca's goes offline because it's not needed now. Like, we just need to get out of harm's way. So it's all rerouted to this area of the brain instead of the back. And that selects the appropriate trauma response to keep you alive. Okay, this is really important. Now, where does this all link in with people pleasing? Because we don't want to get to that, especially as women. I don't want to be in a situation where something turns nasty. I'm sure you've been in situations where things have turned nasty.
Right.
And we don't want to be there. So the first sign of something going off, the first thing we're going to do, oh, sorry, I didn't mean that. Oh, sorry, can I just get you, would you like this? Can I help you with that? Oh, no, I don't need that. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. I don't need that. Take up less space. Dim. Because we don't want anything escalating. So I think we are often perpetually people-pleasing because we're profoundly aware of what can happen. It's like this layer just before it. And the worst part is then we're shamed for that. Oh, Erica, why haven't you put a boundary in? Why didn't you put a boundary in with that friend? Why haven't you done that? Why didn't you just tell them, whatever. Because probably I was beginning to become quite activated, my system, and I'm in a situation where I'm not feeling good about this. I'm very aware of, I don't want my daughter to become afraid of stuff. I want her to be, have be resilient as possible, but also have her childhood and allow her naivety. I hear things in the world that I would have I don't even know, I've got to allow her to have a normal childhood, but at the same time, there's too many things that I've heard, and there are some ways that I am overprotective because I can't unhear the things I've heard from my clients, and I'm happy to own that. I'd rather be a bit safer with her than any kind of sorry. But there's this, you can still, when you start feeling a threat, quite often one of the first things will be like, oh, sorry, no, I didn't mean that. And it can be someone shouting at you. I remember watching this video, this Instagram video, and this lady was just filming herself reading a book at a cafe. And this guy comes up and he's like, do you mind if I sit here? And she's like, no, it's okay. And then he starts trying to talk to her, and she's kind of quite politely sort of saying, that's great, I'm just reading my book. And then he keeps trying, and he starts making a comment about her body, and and he's like, you're here leading me on, letting me sit here. Oh my God, it was mad. But the fact that she didn't, and people are in the comments being like, why didn't you tell him where to go? Why did you let him sit down then? Why did you do this? And you're like, why'd you think? Because she's in a cafe on her own, reading a book, and some perpetuator, someone physically bigger than her, has come and done that, and we are afraid, okay? She was afraid. Give her a break. And she was being polite, but not accommodating, and then he has done the thing that we all fear, which is he switched. And you can see how terrified she was in that moment as well. And instead of people going, oh my God, that's terrible, you led him on. What the fuck?
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so crazy. Okay, so that's so interesting because I think that there's this fine line between being assertive and also wanting to avoid confrontation.
Yeah.
So it's knowing how to assert yourself. What would you do in that situation? What would be the best way to assert yourself, but yet also knowing if certain things drive up your nervous system and, get you in fight or flight?
Yeah.
How do you know the difference between?
I mean, I would say that I'm more confident now in myself, but it would really depend on the environment. So your brain is scanning all the time. So, I mean, it would depend on who I could see around me. If there was maybe other women around me, or what was going on, or, where am I, what space am I in? If I would imagine at that point for me, I'm no longer enjoying the reading of my book at that table. So I'd probably be like, I'm done.
Right.
I imagine that, annoyingly as it is, he should never have done it. I'd like to think I would have been like, you're all right, babe. No, you're not sitting down here. Not in a horrible way. There's plenty of other seats. We're good. But I still think that would have been enough for me to be like, okay, this is not an environment that I'm going to be able to enjoy my lovely cup of tea and my nice book. So I'm just done here, which isn't right or okay. But yeah, I think for me, that would be me being authentic in that this situation is not one that I'm enjoying anymore. I'm going to take myself out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those, yet another example of, and the worst bit was, it was women in the comments as well.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that I talk about in the book. It's obviously not everyone, but I do believe that shame is the last bastion of the patriarchy. I think it's designed to keep us against one another rather than connected. I really do. And again, this is from living and breathing shame for so long. And it's this idea and this fear that we have of being too much. So I'm talking quite a lot. I'm answering your questions in the podcast. In my head, I'm like, I hope I'm giving Erica enough space. Because if I don't, then you might think, God, what a show-off she is. And your listeners might think, she's not letting Erica talk. Who does she think she is? How annoying. I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah.
And I could be too much. And if I said to you, can you think of someone that's a bit too much? We probably both have got an idea, but yet no one's ever told us what too much is. But we fear it. We fear being too much, but no one ever said, right, this here, that's too much. But that's perfect. Like Goldilocks, that's too hot, that's too cold, this is perfect. No one ever said. And so we live in this like perpetual swinging of own your own life, put yourself out there. You've only, YOLO, you've only get your purpose. What's your identity? Like push yourself out there, do all these things, and then, but don't be too much. So again, we're trapped in this really weird paradox, which kind of ends us, I think, again, this people-pleasing cycle of, it's like I'm in the dark feeling, I don't know where it is. I don't know where too much is, but I feel like I might be getting close to it and I'll get stung if I do. And so I retreat and I just turn it down a tiny bit. I take off an extra layer or something, a beautiful accessory, or I act a bit dumber in certain situations because I don't want to come across like I'm cocky, would be something we'd say, or I ask someone else loads of questions because I have had some really good news actually, and I don't want to look like a show off, and I know that they're not having a great time. So if I talk about all the nice things that are happening to me right now, despite having a load of crap happen to me before, then that would make me a bad person. So I just won't say any of that. I'll just sit on that instead. And that is what this like dichotomy and this push-pull that I think we're having all the time is also going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to go back to success, because you said your pursuit of success was to basically feel worthy and also be able to never go back to what was and what you've experienced. So you had to create your own success. And I think this happens so often, especially for highly successful people, which you work with some high top performers. We see these people striving for success and there's no limit, right? Billionaires will keep striving for more success, but yet they're so unhappy. And so I imagine you've worked with some of these people where they're wildly successful, but yet they're just so unhappy, and is at the root of that shame. Yeah,
unworthiness. So it may present as more like imposter syndrome, but there's definitely this sense of unworthiness. And then what people do is they self-sabotage to validate the unworthiness. So, like I'm thinking about quite a few people right now. So there's often times there'll be some kind of behavior using something or someone's, but there's a sense of unworthiness, which is fundamentally, I probably know I'm really good at my job, sport, pursuit, talent, technical, if you like, we could call it kind of the technical area of expertise and brilliance. The individuals probably know they're good enough at that because they can physically see the hours that went into that. They would, generally speaking, all back themselves in that area. But there is an underlying sense of unworthiness. They're I ams. A lot of the time be I am not enough or I am unworthy. And they will inevitably seek to validate that by self-sabotage. It's almost like you fly too close to the sun and then it's like, well, something's going to go wrong or someone's going to find me out, imposter syndrome. So I may as well be doing something myself anyway, either to kind of speed up that process or to, validate the shame that I'm already experiencing. And then, of course, it's worse and it compounds because then you're adding layers and layers and layers onto this shame. And then there's this other thing, that this kind of theory that I've sort of worked on from working in this area for so long, especially elite sports. Everyone looks at elite athletes and you're like, oh, I want to be, like Masters is on this weekend. Right. Oh, I want to be Rory McIlroy. I want to be a pro golfer. And it can be fantastic, but it's incredibly hard. I think people don't appreciate that their salary is out there. If you win in a golf tournament, your winnings are available online for everyone to see, the exact amount. But that isn't the amount of money you make because your agent takes a cut, you pay for a caddy, you pay taxes, you pay this, that, and the other. The other element, more than likely, is you're paying homes, children, supporting other family members. A lot of people become athletes as children, which means family members are also tied into the hierarchy of being paid and those sorts of things. And there's an element of, well, they supported me when I was younger and this has become almost like a family affair, like a family business. Effectively, there's a lot of mouths to feed before your own. And when you're hunting, when you're climbing, when you're chasing, the imposter's much quieter because you haven't got anything to lose, really. It's like, well, I live in a house share, or, I'm just breaking out. I'm coming out into the, I'm just about to sort of stand on the shoulders of giants. So, and you've got someone you're chasing. When you're at the top of the mountain yourself, the energy changes. I see it in corporate, I see it with everybody. They suddenly like pull the drawbridge up and they're like, I can't lose this. I can't lose any of this now. So that's a really different like approach to life. Whereas you are taking risks. To be an elite athlete, you've got to be a bit risky. You've got to go for it. You can't play safe. Same in business a lot of the time as well. So if you find yourself, which I do a lot of the time, people, this almost imposter syndrome is taking over, they're pulling the drawbridge up and they're trying to hang on rather than chase and go for something. That's where this sort of shift is coming in as well, and almost because you think you don't deserve it. I was speaking to a friend of mine who worked in the city, in the financial services in London for a long time. We say the city, but banking. And he was saying that you could often tell the guys that had maybe come from a less fortunate background, because they would earn these huge bonuses, millions and millions and millions of pounds, and they would subconsciously self-sabotage and effectively find ways to lose it. Buy a new car every year, depreciates. Chop and change your house. We have to pay a lot of tax. It's called stamp duty when we buy houses in the UK. You have to keep paying big taxes on top of buying and selling houses. So divorcing by cheating or something else, other unsavoury behaviours that your partner won't look, remarrying, perhaps more support and maintenance, things like that, until eventually they have depleted what would have been their pot that they felt they didn't deserve, to a level that perhaps they find more comfortable.
Self-sabotage is a big thing.
Massive.
I love that you unpack that, because I think that could be really reflecting for some people listening to this right now. What is the remedy for shame?
There is a cure. Apart from my book, which is great. Self-compassion. Self-compassion is the cure for shame. I've started to describe shame a bit like a root. I don't know if you do any gardening, but you can keep cutting a root, you can chop it off, you can dig a bit, you can pull a bit up. But unless you go right down to the bottom, unless you get hold of that root by its very, very ends in that earth that's been in there probably for a long time, and you pull the whole thing up, it will continue, it will regrow. When I witness that root, that I am, that limiting belief that's truly rooted into somebody's system come out, instantly, it's the best part of my job, and I mean instantly, self-compassion. Someone's parent passed when they were young, they couldn't do anything, going from I am unsafe or I am unworthy or I am weak, immediately there was nothing I could have done. Someone that was told that they were a bad person, that was betrayed, that felt deep shame for not having known anything, who felt, again, some weakness or unworthiness, being unlovable. I am heroic. I literally see people's faces change. I mean, I should get paid for anti-aging, honestly. I watch them. I watch the weight.
Like everything just drop.
Oh, my God. Ugh. I watch the weight come off people.
Wow.
I watch them open their eyes. And it's like, because I've had this, so it's like the feeling of you see your life again, but with everything possible. Everything is possible. Beautiful. And that is what happens. Shame, the root of shame is pulled out of your system, and instantaneously that is where that well and that vessel is full of self-compassion. And it's incredible. And that's the thing, as I mentioned, is hard to create for yourself, but not impossible. That's the time when you use the image of a child or someone that you love and you care about in the vision of yourself, that you're finding it hard to heal if you're doing some at-home work. I do believe reading this will help, because you're going through and you're looking at elements of, oh my God, that's resonating, that's helping me lift some of this is really calling to me right now, I'm not alone. And the other thing is speaking it out loud in however way you can to yourself, again, in the mirror, in the car, trusted friend, professional. Doesn't have to be everything. Don't feel you have to go, blah, like all at once. It's okay just to go. I remember the first time I said to a friend of mine that my marriage wasn't okay, and I was so good at pretending, and I was so good at doing the thing where I just asked her loads of questions, and just, so we were talking, the whole time talking, but I just was not showing up. Yeah. And she was like, da-da-da, and I said, actually, not okay. Like, things are not good. And she was devastated. Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't know. I'm so sorry. And I said, I didn't let you know. I didn't let you know. I didn't let anyone know. And I also didn't let somebody know, because I knew the moment I said it, that meant that something was also going to have to change.
So good. One of the things that you talked about, and I'm trying to think what I wanted to pull out, I'll go back to that when it comes back, but boundaries are huge. And so I'd love to dive into boundaries, because I remember, I'll share this little story of a friend that I'm very particular with my time and my energy I put into my pursuits, right? Passion, love, pursuit, right? And so I had some time to work on my podcast on a Friday, which is generally when I do my podcast stuff. And a friend called me and she wanted to hang out. And there was a plan in place for the evening as, a couple date. And they were coming into town earlier in the day, and her boyfriend at the time were driving up together. And so she didn't have a car. And so she's like, while they hang out, I need to hang out with you. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm not available right now. This is the time I work. And she got all pissy and kind of defensive, like, well, you could do that later. I'm in town and like, I have no car and this, that, and the other. I'm like, I'm sorry, this is my time. I have this planned and I'm not going to push this. Otherwise I'll become more stressed and with everything on my plate. And so anyways, long story short, since that incident, I pulled back from that friendship because I realized she doesn't respect me. She doesn't respect my time, and that doesn't work for me. And so I had this boundary in place. Like, there was not, like, I held the line. I was very honest about it and respectful about it, but she just pushed back at me. And so boundaries in friendships and relationships, let's talk about it. Why is this so critical, and what do you think is the way to go about it properly, I guess you could say?
I'd love to just find out from you, because I think this is so helpful and so relevant. You said that you sort of changed the container a little bit for that relationship. Where is that now?
We're not friends.
Right. Okay.
And it's so funny that you asked that. That cracks me up, because since that moment that happened, I pulled away from the friendship because that made me feel uneasy. I'm like, I don't know about this.
Yep.
And then I pulled away, and she definitely felt me pulling away. That was obvious. And probably months down the line, I tried to come back to the relationship, but I realized I wasn't aligned with her anymore. And that's what really changed it. And I wanted to try, but then she kind of escalated things on her end and started criticizing me and all these things. I'm like, nope, done. Sorry, we're not aligned anymore. And I feel good about it. I felt really good about it. But so to answer your question.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, because that is, firstly, when I was listening, I was like, I really hope you told her where to go. Like, that was what I was thinking, because this is not I say to people a lot of the time, when we've got a lot of history with someone, like a friendship, and you're like, oh, but they were there for me then, or, when I had a hard time, or I helped her with that, or we know their back history, or we know what they've been going through, or we know, we, again, so easy to have empathy for another. And so we have all of this kind of empathy and information. But fundamentally, she probably would have treated a stranger better than you in that example. And you see them giving to other people. And so, like, I had this lovely person send me a message the other day, and I'm really pleased you shared this, because it's just so important. There's a guy, actually, who started a chain of gyms. And he was like, I don't understand it. I've put my heart and soul, all my money. I've been doing every weekend, painting and making it work. And this has been my project for years, to make something of myself. He said, I've got friends that they watch all of my Instagram stories, never like a post of mine.
I think we all have friends like that, by the way. Yep.
Yeah. But they like other people's in, like, the same space. So they are online. They are looking at my stories. They are liking people in a similar space to me, but they won't like a single post of mine. Mm-hmm. Like, what the fuck? And I was like, dude, if someone is not going to cheer for you, the older I get, the more I'm like, this is just not okay. Like, I've been through the darkest of the darkest times, and single and perpetually single, and being let down by people, and divorced, and my business is imploding, and all of these kind of things, and you're like, oh my god, I'd really like to meet somebody, or I'd really like to have a work project come in, or I'd really like this thing to happen, and then it happens to a friend of yours, and there might be a little moment you go, oh, I wish that was happening to me too, but I'm so goddamn happy for them. If you're doing your podcast and you can't make it, I might be disappointed that I can't see you. Like, I would have liked to have seen you, but actually that's on me, because I didn't tell you in advance enough. I didn't give you enough warning, or, the likelihood is as well, when you said you were doing your podcast, that's you shining, right? That's why I asked. It's you shining your light. It's you doing something amazing. It's kind of you out there. And I feel like she didn't like it, or you having that version of your rise. And so rather than her being like, oh my God, of course, or well, let's rearrange. I'm so sad to miss you this time. Let's make sure we get something in for another month. It was, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Because she had to bring you down.
And I think she also wanted her needs filled.
Yeah.
And so, I think that that's when the colors start to really show, when somebody's needs are more important than understanding a friend or a relationship's needs.
Yeah.
It's not being able to do both, so.
And that was her sabotaging your friendship as well. So that would have been an element of unworthiness of her. She's probably made a story that you chose a podcast over your friendship of how many years or whatever, and so you're wrong. But that is people that want to criticize as well rather than look at themselves. I don't do everything right. I'm not perfect. I get things wrong, and I say, I apologize where I might need to. But also I know myself well enough now that some things just ain't going to work for me. So I'm not aligned with everybody, just as you say. Like, can we meet for a coffee? Honestly, no. Just because I have such little free time, I've got things that make me feel good mentally and a good use of my energy that I have to put into my child and myself, and I'm completely, that's my priority, like keeping that little bubble as safe as possible, and the things that I need to do and the people that I love in my life and they need to have first, including me. And outside of that, it might be nice, maybe at some point in time I might have I don't know, maybe, but right now I just can't. And that's not going to serve anyone, because I'm being inauthentic, kind of white knuckling through something that I'm not really connecting to. It's not serving that individual. And also having people push. I have a lot of people push as well, which I'm not here for. So they're a bit like this, well, I'm driving in, you can do that later. You can do your podcast later.
Yeah.
Whoa. Don't, please, no. Like, I've given you my answer.
Yep.
I didn't even have to explain that much, but I said to you, I actually can't, this is what I'm doing. And, and then you keep pushing me. You're not going to get anywhere with me anymore. Now, the shameful me, maybe I am making them feel bad.
Right.
Oh, no, maybe I should do that. Or, oh, no, they're probably right because I am a bad person.
But then we're sabotaging ourselves, and we're hurting ourselves by then bending completely. And accommodating.
Yeah, and you'll never have the time to fill your cup first.
Exactly.
Work on the things that matter for you. So, yeah, if you're finding yourself overgiving or in these like one-sided friendships, and if you think about it, if you were to pull away and the friendship breaks, was that a real friendship? Or was it just you doing the CPR on it all the time?
Right.
And I think that clearly in your case, in this dynamic, you pulled away. She criticised you and was completely unaccommodating and lacking kindness. Like, I'm big on kindness. That just isn't kind.
Yeah.
Like my girlfriends and I've got one rule for life. Like, don't be a dick. She was a massive dick to you then. Like, don't be
100%.
a dick.
That's why I pulled away.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I would say with the boundaries thing, just don't be afraid. Like, another way of reframing it with friendships is I say to people, if you were to meet this person now, in a coffee shop, at this conference we're at tomorrow, at a party, a friend's thing, and you were to talk to them as they are now, the behaviours they elicit, the things they're involved in, their belief systems, what they say versus what they do, got to watch for those as well. Would you choose them to be your person? Or would you be like, just forget the interaction or whatever? The likelihood is you probably wouldn't. So when we keep factoring all of this history in, if it's making you feel so much worse every time you're feeling anxious before you meet up with them, you're not able to fully show up. Like I say, you're having to play parts of you down, or watch out for a mood, or not say a certain thing, or make sure you go to places they like, or it's going to be a tricky evening. I mean, I haven't got the time or the energy.
Yeah, nobody does, or you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Okay, you talk a lot about alignment and values, and I think this is a key component in getting away from your shame and living a life that you don't desire or deserve. And so actually let me ask you, what are some questions we could ask ourselves so that we could become more in alignment and live according to our values?
Oh, I love that. Thank you. I actually think it's quite difficult when someone goes, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want right now? You're like, And again, I'm going to like over-womanize this, but I think we get a bit like, that can almost start triggering us into a slight response of like freeze. I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to offend this person. I don't want to upset this person. And that's when we say something and later on you go, why did I say that? That isn't what I wanted at all. So sometimes I think, what do you want can be a bit of a tricky question, which is if anyone's listening and going, oh, that is me. I never really know. And then you feel more shame because you don't know what you want. And people are like, how do you not know what you want? One question that I like to ask is, what would give me the most pleasure in this moment? Maybe it would be having a bit of time to enjoy a gorgeous cup of coffee outside. Maybe I'm feeling really in need of moving my body. Maybe I want to switch off my phone for an hour and go for a walk. Perhaps I want to like immerse myself in a kinky dragon fiction book that I'm listening to at the moment, you know, or maybe I want to connect with a friend and laugh until my sides hurt. Maybe I want to put aside some time for me and my boyfriend to just, you know, deeply connect or, you know, have a meal together, something like that. What would give me the most pleasure in my life right now as well? Bigger question. I'm really lacking, at the moment for me personally, I'm really lacking some connection to my spiritual side. I'm deeply spiritual and I haven't had enough time to nurture that. So looking at areas, what would give me the most pleasure is a slightly different reframe to what do I want? And it's a slower energy. Another thing to do is the exact opposite. Instead of a to-do list, you write a to-don't list. So what are all the things that that are taking my energy and my joy? Years and years ago when I left corporate to go into coaching initially, I wrote down a list of all of the things that took my joy. And one of them was taking the London Underground on a Monday morning. And I realised it started seeping in and taking my life on a Sunday. So sort of 1, 2 p.m. on a Sunday, I'm getting the dread. I'm thinking about Monday morning. I'm like, oh, it's literally stealing my presence. It's taking me, it's anxiety. It's taking me out the present moment. So on my to-don't list was, I will never take the tube before 12 p.m. on a Monday. Which meant really that's a work from home day, you know. So you start structuring things and like take out the things, the people, the areas that are really, really depleting your joy, and maybe just start working towards removing one of those at a time. Because I appreciate you can't just overnight go, right, I hate living in this city and this and that, you know, but just work towards moving those up, because that in itself will start indicating, oh, okay, with those gone, this actually is really how I would enjoy my days and my time. And I think that your purpose and other things come from there. Certainly for me, when I had my big burnout, if you'd given me a golden envelope and gone, Annalie, this is your dream career, you're going to be happy forever and you're going to be really successful, I would have taken it straight away. But that's not how life works.
Right.
What you get is one step, and as soon as you take that, the next one illuminates. So I would absolutely say to look at the to-don't list, which is what is pulling my joy. Have a look at the things that maybe what's going to give me the most pleasure, what energy do you want to be in right now. And the other one to do is the shoulds versus want. I talk about this a lot, but another thing to list out is all the things you feel you should be doing. I should get back to that friend. I shouldn't have said that. I should be more available to them. I should call this person. I should get back to that email. Should in my view, should be a swear word. We all have this huge pile of shoulds on ourselves. Generally speaking, should is for others. If you look at that list, the theme will typically be that it's for other people, including societal expectation. And then next to that, write the things that you actually want, the things that give you the most pleasure right now, the ideas of which light up your soul inside. And again, all of those things are going to start being like a nice inquiry for you as to how you want to take things forward and like your true essence.
So good. I love that. And I actually want to do that on my own just to see what I come up with. Absolutely. Actually, talking about the word should, there's another word that you hate is sorry. Yeah. So yes. You kind of touched on this briefly, but why is it important we notice when we say sorry so much?
It's linked to shame, and it's linked to minimizing ourselves. So if you got upset right now, if we were having a conversation, you got very emotional, the likelihood is if you started crying, the word that would come out of your mouth is sorry. Most of the time when, as adults, but actually a lot of people, when they get upset, the first thing they do is say, oh, sorry, for having an emotional response to something. And that to me is like an epidemic of us apologizing for something that is just such a part of our nature. It's a way of releasing stress from our system. It's a connection to something important. It's witnessing something beautiful. It's feeling something like that hurts us and makes us feel sad. There's no reason to apologize, and yet we do, because we're afraid of being messy. We're afraid of our emotions. We're afraid of not being perfect. Oh, sorry, can I just, oh, sorry, Eric, I don't mean to trouble you. Sorry, do you mind if I just, sorry, oh, sorry, I did ask. Oh, sorry, I'm just bumping this up, your email. Oh, sorry, do you mind if, we start everything with an apology for something that is often just ourselves. And that is just like me giving Fruit Loops to shame. Every time you do that, you are just revalidating that you don't deserve just to be yourself, just to take up this space, let alone anything more. So every time we're using this apology, we're minimizing ourselves even further. Like I say, it's this way of giving shame its extra little sugar boost while turning our light down ever slowly, so we're just dimming ourselves even further because, you know, you were rude to me, you didn't reply to my email, like this, I've asked twice now, you know, whatever it might be. Like, I'm a very, very polite person. I like good manners, you know, good old British manners and everything else. And if I hurt someone, my worst fear now is that I would unintentionally cause hurt to somebody. I would hate that. And of course, I apologize to my kid when I get it wrong. It's not that, but it's apologizing for simply being ourselves.
Right.
That's what I want us to get away from.
A lot of people apologize or say I'm sorry when they start crying and tearing about something that they're passionate or something that has hurt them or whatever, and it's like no, it's okay, you know. I think a lot of people do that. They're like shameful of their emotions.
Yes, we are, because it's not perfect. And it's this whole idea again of like, I'm not perfect. It's messy if you cry, you know, be a good girl. Like we don't colour outside the lines. It's like crying, we're colouring outside the lines, we're making a mess somehow. And also, I don't want my emotions to be difficult for you. So I'm apologising because, Erica, I don't want you to have to handle my emotions. I'm taking up too much of your time and your space. And I'm like, I'm sure you do with your clients. I'm like, it's an honour for me to be in this space with you, witnessing this. This is such an honour that you're, you know, having this experience with me here. When my daughter gets upset, I say to her, baby, you're so smart. Like, you're just letting that stress out straight away. And from working with a lot of grown-ups that try and keep it in for years and years and years, of which I was one, I never cried, I didn't cry. I stopped crying the last time my father hit me because I swore to myself I wouldn't cry because I wouldn't give him the rise. And then it wasn't intentional, I don't think. In front of him that was, but then I think I did stuff it down into the system for further and further and further. I remember when I was going through my divorce, I was like, why am I not crying? Like, I'm almost trying to cry, but just wasn't there. I think I was just in such a fight or flight, to be honest. But I tell you how I was crying. I was crying by clawing chunks out of my face every day. That was my silent scream. I self-harmed by picking at my face, habitual skin picking, clawing, literally. I know you've read it, it's all in the book, but I'd come round with blood on my hands, and that was my scream. It wasn't even just a cry. That was me screaming out that emotion silently, but clawing it out of my face. And I know how that sounds, and I've obviously worked through all of that, and it's in the book, and I healed the inside to heal the outside. But that was my response. And so I want her to cry every day, every time she feels a bit sad, because I never want her to have internalized so much pain and shame and feel that she can't have emotions, that it may ever need to come out like that or in some other behavior.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, you talk about that in the book and in your story of your journey and how you healed through it. A couple things I want to bring out, but your book, Unapologetic. Okay, so moving into healing, we talked about this offline. When we start to heal or start to change, mean for the better, because we're healing and we're starting to discover more of our authentic self, we'll lose relationships and they'll kind of, you know, they won't be aligned anymore, as I talked about. And so I want people to know that, you know, somebody that you've been friends with 10 plus years, that doesn't mean that you have to keep them in your life. When you go through change, things will fall off. And so I think it's uncomfortable and people will feel shame because of that. But if you're starting to walk down the path of being unapologetic, what would you say to that person that's kind of navigating that?
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing the story yourself as well. I think it's so powerful for people listening. Not only will you not be aligned with some people will quite literally drop you and you won't know why. They are people that you would have absolutely kept in your life, that you love and you thought you were really good friends with, and one day you'll realise that they have not been cheering for you and actually quite the opposite, and it's so hurtful. And this happens all the time, and you didn't realise that by you shining that was not okay by them. And this is probably a bit like yourself. Perhaps in that dynamic, you've been doing a podcast, you're shining, and you didn't know that you were in some kind of competition. No one ever told you that. And that by you shining, that was diminishing and taking, and that made you wrong. And so by people, when they're reclaiming their power, so the book is Unapologetic, Unshackle Your Shame, reclaim your power. Because when shame is gone, full of self-compassion, you're free to reclaim your power. When you start doing that, there are people that can't cheer for you because maybe they're unwell, they're going through something themselves, but they'll let you know, you'll find that out. And then there are people that won't cheer for you. And that's a dangerous group of people to have close to you. And like I say, sadly, you might find out, oh, I had no idea it would be you. And often it's someone that you didn't expect. I was given some amazing advice that I want to share, because in case it's happening to somebody else, I was actually given this when I was beginning the divorce, and someone said to me, very good bit of wisdom this, passed down the line, very grateful. There are people in your life that you always thought would be there that won't be, but don't worry, because there are people that either you haven't met yet or you never thought would, and they'll step in a way you can't imagine. And it was so true in both aspects. The heartbreak of people that I never in my life thought would not only not be there, but also cause some harm. And then the shock and reverberation of that, but thankfully I'd already heard this. And then people that stepped in with their hand out to pull me back up, me and my daughter, that I almost at that point maybe didn't know very well, or I hadn't anticipated they would do it, and they did. So just to sort of say to people, please have the faith, and that if you're experiencing this right now, that the universe is probably clearing out, or however you want to look at it. But if somebody isn't there fully for you, as in they're not wanting the best for you, it's not going to change, sadly. If someone really doesn't want the best for you, so sadly, it's not going to change. And you don't want those people around your table. My table now is smaller, but it's amazing. I'm completely myself with everyone that I'm really close to. I have an incredible relationship now that I couldn't have had before I'd gone through all of this. It's absolutely my soulmate. You know, it's an amazing relationship. And I lost a friend when I met him.
Wow,
So I lost a friend when I got my book deal. There were things that, so I guess it's resonating with you, isn't it?
Well, it's wild. Well, what's interesting about the friendship that I mentioned, she actually did support me a lot in all my endeavors. She definitely cheered for me. But I think there was this part of insecurity she had about herself, and also this need to be filled as a friend for her, that honestly I couldn't fill completely, because I can't be there for you 24/7 at the, you know, of course, if emergency or something comes up and, you know, that you need a friend, I could be there. But as far as understanding that there are boundaries, there are things that I have pressing, and it's not that you urgently need me. So it's kind of interesting. Like, you know, I've analyzed it a lot and tried to understand it, but when it comes down to it, it really just came to, I'm not aligned with the person anymore, and that doesn't mean she wasn't a great friend.
Absolutely.
And I know she cheered me on and all the things, but I just realized that we're just going different paths, and that's okay, and bless it. Bless
Reason,
you.
season, lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a whole lifetime.
Of
and it's
course.
a gift, the connection that you have at that time. And it's also can be a gift to allow in new things and new people.
Absolutely. Okay, so unapologetic and shameless. What are some clear signs we're living in that space?
Ooh, being unapologetic. So one of the clearest signs for me is I don't think about things anymore. So I'll give an example of, like, I will turn up to get my daughter from school wearing anything. Like, as in, I'm not like, oh, that might be too much if I've come from, say, filming or a talk or something, or I'm on an off day and I'm literally turning up in, you know, kind of hair everywhere or whatever. I don't think it through. If I feel like dressing in a certain way just to go and get a coffee, I will. That's me expressing my true nature that day. So it's my unapologetic authenticity is what I would say, and I'm not spending time going through hyper-analysing all the different ways that could upset someone or trigger someone, or what could happen, or is this too much, or da-da-da-da-da. It's just, this is just who I am, you know, and I'm really, really okay with who I am. And then the shamelessness, as I say, is about freedom. So it's about when you've got hold of your shame, when you've understood your shame, when you've got hold of it by the root, you've pulled it out, you're full of self-compassion, then everything just becomes really limitless. You find yourself re-energized, you find yourself with natural boundaries. It's things you don't have to work on too hard anymore. You're in this like natural equilibrium of who you were always meant to be. You're showing yourself as you were always meant to be, and you're really happy in that place. Like, I'm very rarely stressed. We talked off air, there's some quite insane things that have happened this week. Very little rattles my cage. I'm so full of joy, and I really, really do believe that my life is fully beginning for me right now. there's some, sadness and healing maybe towards the version of the girl that was, but there's no part of me that's like, oh, it's too late, or I wish I had that then. Like, I'm so present and I'm so grateful. And I want everyone to have a taste of, I want this to me isn't a book, it's a movement. I want people to understand where shame comes from, where we're given it, where we're spoon-fed it from society, from, elements in our life, from, you've read this, like from even medical, where we've been let down, systems are in there, interviews, people. I just want people to read this book and go, oh my goodness. And that shame is this thing that is, it might be a felt sense for you, but it's not yours. Shame is never yours. It's given to you. None of us should ever have shame. Ever. And it's something that's been handed over to us. And so my big wish is that people read this, realize that was never theirs to carry, and we can start this movement of becoming our true unapologetic selves.
So beautiful. And that brings me to a quote that I actually have right here. Being unapologetic isn't about being harsh. It's about stopping ourselves from saying sorry for just existing. And I think this is so, so key, because I think that being unapologetic doesn't mean that you are abrupt, harsh, and like everybody see me and, I matter more than you. It's really about showing up and just not needing to, it's dropping all the masks.
Yeah.
We all honestly, we all wear them, but it's recognizing the masks we put on and gently removing them and just letting ourselves be seen just as we are.
Yeah.
But it takes this work to go through and really understand why we wear certain masks. And I love that what I love about the book is that it's sharing these stories, because I think, as you expressed early on, with self-compassion and also knowing that we're not alone. And so by you sharing these stories, and also, of course, everything we've shared today on this, is letting people know they're not alone.
That's all I want, honestly. The most difficult time for me, I remember going through like chat rooms, just like anonymous chat rooms, trying to find anyone that had a post that sounded a bit like me. And what I really wanted was for it to then say, and I'm okay. So I was searching for hope. And so I love that you said that, because that's what this is.
Yeah.
It's the hope that you need. And that's what I wanted to create.
So beautiful. Okay, so you are wildly popular on Instagram. You're sharing so much goodness, and that's why I fell in love with you. And I'm like, you need to come on the podcast, please. Because there's just so much goodness and so much power in everything you said. What is one of the most viral posts you've had that people have really resonated with?
The one that's coming to my head is "Do not dim to fit in." So that one was very, very resonant, which again was about just sort of, it doesn't help you to turn your light down. It doesn't help others. Like, my daughter's 8, nearly 9. I want her to find women like you as an inspiration. I want her to be any woman that she wants to be when she grows up. She can't find examples of that if people are just turning that dial down. Like I say, dumbing down your intelligence a bit, not fully expressing themselves however they might want to dress, or showing up in that way, like holding back parts of their personality. Like, your people can't find you if you're dimming yourself down. So please, like, think of it like a lighthouse. You're saving souls by being fully yourself. Like, you're an inspiration to me sharing this. I hope people read some of this and go, wow, we need to be able to fully show up as ourselves in a gentle, unapologetic way, to allow other like-minded souls to find us.
Oh, so good. Talking about your daughter, because I think this is really important for any parents that are listening, especially you being where you're at right now, and to be unapologetic, shameless. How, as a parent, can we teach our children to also lead that type of life? What are some maybe actions we could take, some language we could share with them?
So I'm very careful with it's shame that I try and watch for, obviously. I mean, and look, she is amazing and I do my best, but there will be some point she's in a therapist's office saying that I've ruined her. So I have no doubt, like, at some point there'll be some moment that, and absolutely right, that she'll need to unpack some stuff. But the thing that I do always, and I always have since she was little, let's just say, I'll give an example. She knows the only time I'll ever raise my voice is if I think she might get hurt or hurt someone else. So it's the only time I'm ever like, please stop. So if we give an example of running by a swimming pool, favourite. So, please don't run by the pool. Like, stop running by the pool. And occasionally I'll have to be like, come, let's have a minute. What I always do is I separate her out from the behaviour, and I separate out my love from the thing. So I always start with this. Amber, there is never 1 second that I don't love you. Never once. Like, my love is never in question. I love you more than anything in this world, and I always will. However, that thing you did when you run by the pool, I don't like that because you're going to hurt yourself, you're going to bump into the other kid, whatever. So she knows that my love for her is not in question. She's always safe in my love for her, but the thing she did is unsafe, unacceptable, whatever, and here's the reason why. Now, a big part of that is when I was doing a lot of my trauma training and being in a room with these therapists, it's in the book, starts the prologue, that training room, and the amount of collective trauma of very experienced therapists, adults, that they had from go to your room. And they were like, I didn't know if I could come out of my room. I didn't know exactly what I'd done wrong. I didn't know if you're a kid, am I going to have a meal again? What is the trouble? Do they still love me? Am I thrown out of this family? Shame. And you're in isolation. And you're in this place that isn't yours, that might be your room, but in their home. And honestly, it was kind of unbelievable. And I mean, I had it as well. It was maybe an era thing, but I mean, I obviously had a whole lot. Going to my room was quite a pleasure, to be honest, to be away from my family. But like that was the less of my evils. But the amount of adults and, like I say, trained professionals, that it was such a huge conversation about this feeling of fear and danger and not having our needs met and being isolated and alone and left with the shame of something you've done. You go to your room. Get out of my sight, get out of here, you go to your room. Yeah. Like, it makes you feel so unlovable and unsafe. So for parents listening, personally, I always make sure she knows the love and safety is not in question, but I'm not here for what you did, babe. Like, you know, right. that's the difference.
So valuable. I really think that is so great to explain why you do that too, is to know that, you know, separating the behavior from who they are.
The other thing that I do with her is I tell her she's really easy to love, exactly as she is. Beautiful. So I don't, you know, I think she's beautiful. So she is beautiful and other things. She is really good at maths. So I could say you're so clever, or I could say I try not to good girl her, and believe me, it does sometimes come out of my mouth. But say she's done me a little card, she's doing arts and crafts, or, you know, maybe she's tidied something up, I try not to reward her on being a good girl. Because, I mean, you can go down rabbit holes with this, but I don't want her in the future to feel that she needs to earn love. So, I mean, like I say, you can go down rabbit holes with this. I don't think you can overlove kids. I really don't think you can overlove your kids. You can maybe spoil them with things, but I don't think you can ever overlove your children. Personally, and having seen, I have a lot of grown-ups in my room that were underloved. So I think you can't overlove the kids. And with her as well, I just try and say to her that, I just go, oh my God, do you know what, Ams? You're so easy to love, like just exactly as you are. You're so easy to love. Because I just want her to know that she is, as I say, there's nothing about her that's unlovable.
Oh, that's so sweet. I absolutely love that, and I'm sad to not meet her today.
No, you'll see her tomorrow. You'll know.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm sure she's full of light. Yeah, I could just imagine her energy, and I've seen some interviews you've done with her, and they're just so sweet. So I'm so happy you showed that, because I think parents need to see this, because, again, like, a lot of our wounding came from the childhood that we had. So to see your dichotomy with your daughter, I think is just so beautiful. And it also gives a little hint into maybe people seeing themselves in this child, you know.
I love that you asked me this question, and thank you for saying that about the videos. Give you a little exclusive. So we've got some content coming out soon. I don't know when this will come out, but we've done videos about the way that I'd never speak to her. But she and I have done some videos of me shaming her.
Oh, interesting.
And it's horrible.
Oh, as just content to show example?
To try and give an example. So things like...
So brilliant.
You go over there and you give them a hug. Like, you don't want to go make that person feel bad now, do you? You know, as in like the time that you gave away your comfort to go and like hug a strange uncle so-and-so or whoever, you know, that you're a child and you didn't want to, but you're told that you're wrong and you're making that person feel bad. And if you don't do it, you're the one making them feel bad. And you're like giving away your agency as a child to... That's one of the first times, I think, that you're told to, you know, put your needs below another. And then we've done all these other ones as well. I did it with JB Copeland. I don't know if he's a friend of mine. He's based in Dallas, big influence. So we did a couple with him, being a shouty dad. So he's in it as well. Basically, and in it, she says sorry. And I'm like, go on, good girl. So that's like, we're basically doing the ways that you say sorry and you apologize, but she's doing it with me. And we've got like backstage footage, and it's me that's in tears, and she's like, oh, it's fine, mummy, you don't talk to me like that. And I'm like, oh, it's horrible.
I'm sure it made you feel horrible, just the process of it. But that's so useful, because I think it's great to, I think, as Brené Brown says, that shame cannot live where there's empathy. Empathy, self-compassion, I believe they are the same. But I think once you're able to understand a behavior and understand, you know, the translation of it, if you want to say, then it lessens the meaning of it, if you want to say, if I'm saying that correctly. But I think that's so great for people to see examples, because again, when we're parents, we don't want to inflict, we just know so much now, especially with you talking about it and all these experts talking about shame, trauma, you know, and what really hinders us from living as our true authentic self. There's so much out there. And so I think parents are hungry for that. Like, I want to make sure I don't wrong my kid like I was wronged by my parents. Because granted, our parents, because I'm the same age as you, our parents didn't know this. They didn't talk about trauma. They didn't have therapy. So it's, you know, in the times we're at right now, it's just so critical and important for people to understand more we know, the better, right?
So. I'm really glad you said that. There's a little thing that I offer to people. I'll offer it here as well, for healing ourselves and maybe wishing that we had some of that with our parents. So 2 things can be true at the same time. Our parents were doing the best they could with what they had, and that wasn't what you needed. And so we can hold both of those as a duality. They were doing the best they could with what they had at the time, and that wasn't what I needed. And it kind of doesn't make anyone wrong. You know, there's holding that duality of it.
I'm going to clip that. That was good. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Annalie, this has been such an honor. I want people to know where they could find you and all the goodness you share. And of course, your book will be in the show notes.
Thank you. So yeah, Unapologetic, out on the 13th of May, which like I say, I'm planning on starting a movement. So that's really exciting. Best place to find me is Instagram, at Annalie Howling. I think there's 307,000 other lovely souls. We've got a nice community there. People are really supportive in the comments. Really nice. Like, people are really there to help one another. If you're in pain, come along. And it sounds a bit strange, but you really do find, yesterday I put a post up about betrayal, and the amount of people diving in to send support and love to each other is so beautiful. So Amazing. Please come there. There's a few videos on YouTube, Annalie Howling as well, and there is TikTok, but I feel too old to use that. So, and who knows what's happening with TikTok, but yeah, that's Annalie Howling as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, I'll just close in my last question, even though you've shared so much information today and so much wisdom. So if you were to share a piece of wisdom, a life lesson that you've learned along your journey, what would that piece of wisdom be and why?
There's a Carl Jung quote. I'm sure it's in the books. It's one of my favorites. And it's that it's the wise man who keeps his shadow out in front, because it can never take you down from behind. And to me, that is what shame is.
Wow, that's so, I've never heard that quote. And I read through your book, but I can't remember that one. Maybe I missed it somewhere.
To be honest, it may have come out with a lot, like in edits, but that's one of my absolute all-time favorites. Because yeah, that's why we have the shadow out in front. That's how I am shameless. There is I have no shame. I have no shadow.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. This has been such a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, darling. I've really loved it.